when I'm getting to the bag, ayy. Got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast, ayy. Let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
Hey guys, before we jump into the episode, I wanted to let you know it is brought to you by the NMFTA. Let me ask you a question. Do you ship LTL freight? Then listen up, because the NMFC changes went live on July 19th, and they're the biggest updates in the history of freight classification. Now more than ever, accuracy matters. That's why carriers, shippers, and brokers alike are turning to Class IT Plus, the NMFTA's new digital platform for real-time NMFC data. Stop guessing, start classifying smarter, and quote freight with confidence. It's time to get your ship together because the NMFC changes are already here. Learn more at nmfcchanges.com and get started with Class IT Plus at classitplus.com. Just do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I say this before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Thursday, everybody. Sorry we're a couple of minutes late. I should have just hit go live as soon as her and I started talking. I knew this was going to be an electric episode. We've talked in the past, and when I think of freight fraud, I think of her because she has been going at this for so long now. She's got a phenomenal brand behind it in the Fraud Girl, and she cares about what she's doing. And that's like a massive separator out there. There's a lot of people who grift on certain topics, and it's like if you listen to the show, you hear me talk about the flavor of the week, and that's what I see from a lot of creators out there. But she's put this out there. She's building up a phenomenal following, podcast, all of that stuff out there. And then she also got a nice new job for a company I also have a lot of respect for as well. So with that being said, I'm going to welcome Danielle Spinelli on the show. Danielle, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Oh my God, thank you so much. I've honestly been, I've told you this before, but I've been wanting to go on your show for so long. So I'm like, I'm so excited. So yeah.
It was funny because as soon as you DM, it was almost I saw your update on your job, and then within 24 hours, you're like, hey, can I come on your show now? The removal of the conflict of interest is gone. So
yeah, exactly. So please, I want to talk. Yeah, I love it.
It's great. But no, I think, seeing you come up here over these last couple of years with your content and really taking a stance and drawing that line in the sand with it. And, as I was saying kind of in the intro there, I see a lot of grifters when it comes down to content, right? And you see it now by people who aren't even in the freight industry who are talking about a lot of this stuff because it's in the algorithm and it's popular for them. So they're trying to make content to get that short-term engagement. And then I always sit back and look, and I'm like, you don't even know how many wheels are on an 18-wheeler, bro. Don't come out here and start talking about this. And, so it's when it comes down to freight fraud and everything else, I remember the first time I saw you put out a post about that, I'm like, as a branding person, I'm like, that's fucking dialed. I love that.
Thank you. No, I totally agree with that. And honestly, I love that there's so much buzz about it. I love that like I just went and met with the FBI the other day and like they care about it. Like we're finally at the point where like people care, like yay. And like you said, I've been in this for a minute and I'm so passionate about it. But those who speak on it that haven't lived it and haven't dealt with their own theft or dealt with the shadiness on a call, like I did that, and so it's like I understand what it's like. I saw it ramp up back, whenever I was a broker for so long, and I'm more passionate about like making a stop to things than I am just about like making money off of it or making sales. And I think that's probably where I differ from other people too. Is it's not just about money. Obviously, I have to make money, but it's like more of like educating, and because a lot of it comes down to is like if you would have known that this was a new trend, you probably would have then spotted. Like people aren't idiots. Like they've been, especially who are in the trenches, like they hear all the things. But if you don't know it's a new trend, you wouldn't know, and you would be then you become a victim to it. So no, I'm super passionate about it mainly because I lived that life. And luckily my boss at the time was super amazing. And she was like at the time I was like, this is way over the top on carrier vetting. But now that I know how much exploded, she was just really kind of ahead of her time. So
Yeah, and your new role here at GenLogs, it was kind of like when I saw the announcement, and then I was like thinking about everything you were doing. I'm like, this makes complete sense, right? Like I've had Ryan on the show a few times now, and like what they're doing and building out there is just like on steroids, right? Like it's all over. So when that like, how did that all come about? Were you like, no, I got to get involved in something like this?
So kind of, yes. So like I would say like last May or so, I reached out to Ryan. So I had him on my podcast and I reached out to him shortly after. I'm like, you know what? Like we freaking belong together. Like we need to work together. I felt that calling. And at the time I was like, well, I don't really know what I have. Like I have a sales gig. I'm like, I don't want to go to sales gig to sales gig. Like I want something more. And so actually during Manifest, he came up to me and was like, hey, I got a director partnership gig opening up. And I'm like, I love selling and stuff like that. And so, but as he was talking through the role and it basically becoming where I get to also do the educational pieces and kind of all the things I'm really passionate about. Like I said, they sent me to the FBI and talking to them, like he still really understood like my passion for this and was able to be like, hey, I'm on the same passion board, but I can't be everywhere. So I need like a partner in crime to do this with. And then plus we need our data into all the people that I'm friends with. So it's like I get to be friends with everybody and talk tech, which I love. And then I do all the educational pieces. So it was like a no-brainer as soon as it came across. I'm like, I gotta do this. So
I think it's one of those and obviously I don't know every org chart of every organization out there, but I think a lot of the new tech that has came into the industry, and again, I've heard a lot of it, they have a great product, but they don't have that frontline experience, like in the trenches, like actually vetting a carrier or actually brokering freight. So it's like, that's where those synergies of like having somebody like yourself on board, who's like, no, I've unfortunately been in the trenches and I've had real stuff happen. And like, it's a different method. Like it's a different mindset when you're going out there. And like, I talk about this on this show, and then like I talk about it a lot more privately now because like I don't want to give away any of the stuff that we do internally to thwart a lot of this stuff, because like to me there's a lot of like similarities of what they've done since I've been a broker for the past almost 16 plus years now, right? So it's like a lot of those things haven't changed. It's just like how they're doing it now is just digitized, right? So it's like there's a lot of those things that deters me from wanting to work with carriers. But again, you can have a great product out there that solves it, but it's like if you can't tailor it to the actual end user, the people at that desk level on the brokerage floor or on the fleet floor, it kind of becomes irrelevant. And I've just seen so many products, not that they were bad products, but like they didn't deploy it properly because they didn't have that tribal knowledge of people who've done the work selling it out there to the market.
1,000,000,000% agree. And a lot of the people that work at GenLogs, honestly, or a lot of them were like former CIA or formal this and that. And like a lot of them are like that. A lot of them weren't in logistics. So Ryan actually just had me write like a big long piece of like, hey, will you write out all the history of cargo theft? Like spell it out to me in your own words. So I did like a full on education session with them. I think we're coming out with that as a blog because it's very long, but very in depth of exactly the trends on it. But what's because I do have the industry knowledge as well. I mean, I've been working with our product team to say like, hey, we need this a little bit differently, or hey, this type of carrier vetting really doesn't matter. This would be better. And what's really cool with all the vetting stuff that I know is being able to like be really creative and like, this red flag is a red flag, but a lot of times in the industry, a lot of the compliance people will know, like you get get a red flag, but then it's not always a yes or no. So being able to pair that up with like actual images on the road of like, hey, this is a guy, maybe he has no inspections, right? But we see this guy traveling all the time. So he's not a bad guy. Like and my thing too is like not excluding good carriers. Cause I mean, I was a carrier sales rep for 8 years and like, those are my boys. Like I was good friends with like, especially really small fleets. And like, I mean, I knew we were just good friends. Like to this day, they still message me like seeing you doing this. And that's awesome. And I wish as an industry, we'd get back to that relationships. A lot of the cargo theft, I feel like would stop. But I think, until we kind of get back into that mindset, in the meantime, we at least need to be not excluding out some good carriers.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think that's that Gainesville, Georgia freight broker training that you both received, because I mean, that's how I was trained to do this job back then. Because I started off as a carrier rep for I think the first 4 or 5 years that I was doing this, and we like couldn't post a load.
Yep.
When we started, you're like, no, you're making outbounds. You're calling all these guys who are posted on these load boards, and you're going to find out what lanes they run. You're going to find out what days of the week they're available. You're going to find out why are you even in Atlanta, Georgia right now.
Yep.
You're going to find out all that stuff. And then those are the people you're going to go to first. Yep. You're going to post as an absolute last resort. And that to me was the most like fundamental piece of my training that I still apply inside of my company today. Like we are 85% pre-booked with the same trucking companies. That is our goal. And, I wish it was 100%. But when you're working with the small to mid-sized fleets out there, they're not always back in the areas that you need. But our tactics and strategies don't change. We still reach out to them first, no matter what. Like they know we want to keep them fed. And I'm right there with you. I think once you have a verified repeat carrier who knows your customer's business, they communicate at a high level, they actually care about your freight as much as they do the success of their company. It's like a win-win. I don't know why people go out there and like try and find a cheaper option. Like I get it, right? I'm a capitalist. I want to make as much money as possible, but I got to make consistent revenue over 12 months. And I know how fast business can go away when you knowingly book the wrong truck on there. And it's like, if you have that quality carrier, why aren't you reusing them 100% of the time?
Well, and I think because like, it's funny, right? Like honestly, having that knowledge, like you just said, like that's exactly, you are spot on. That's exactly how I was trained. And so I still have that same mindset. So whenever I see somebody operating differently, and so many companies have for so long because it was so easy and capacity was loose. And now that it's getting tighter, I mean, honestly, I'm like so thankful that it's getting tighter, because I'm like, we need to get back to what actually is being a broker. That's actually, doing the job instead of just posting and covering it instantly. Like, I think the dips, and part of that history thing that I wrote was, the dips and flows that we had, produce season, peak season, those were the two that we knew in the off season of that when capacity was looser. We weren't cutting carriers for $25 or $50 because we knew on the backside, if we took care of them now, whenever the season does get tight, we're the rock stars with our shippers where we're like, hey, we're not going up at all. Give me more business. Actually, I got people I got to feed. And we were making so much more money during those bad times, peak season and produce season, because I had great relationships with my carrier. So I hope that those who have been, had that mindset throughout even all of this time, I think those are the ones who right now with capacity getting tighter, they are, being able to see the light on the other side of the tunnel type thing.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think it's a tight market is a great market to grow in, especially if you know how to do it. I see a lot of it out there on social media. Again, I don't want anybody to struggle, but like I think there's going to be a lot of people who are very vocal right now who have never seen a tight market. They've never had to beg somebody essentially to take their freight, and it's very evident, right?
Yeah.
But that as a competitor, that's my competitive advantage. Like I've seen this multiple times before, because like, and again, rate's always going to be an issue. Like rate's a thing. It is, but like
totally,
it's going to come to a point where customers are going to be like, do you actually have a truck? You do. Yep. And then you can give them a bunch of details and they're like, perfect, send it in. And like price comes secondary at that point, right? Because like it hasn't hit yet. Like, if people think now is a tight market, it gets way worse than this, like way worse. And then that's when you're going to see, is this industry really for you?
Yeah, I totally agree. It like honestly, it's hard for me whenever somebody's like, "Oh yeah, I started in 2021." I'm like, "You're not a real broker."
Yeah.
I know that's bad to say, but I think those who are like little, industry veterans, and I've been in it for like 11 years, so I wouldn't say I'm like a veteran by any means, but those who have been, prior to 2020, I think get it and understand that core value. And I just feel like that grind of the work, it's so fun and rewarding whenever you are that rock star and you're like, hey, I do have a truck. And like you said, rates come and go on stuff where, you do need more money to take care of your carriers and stuff like that. Like you obviously need to pay them, but having that truck being available is huge. And then not only all of that, but like going back to the fraud girl piece, cargo theft prevention wise, like I was talking to Scott Cornell the other day and I was like, we were talking about the numbers and like, I was hoping that 2025 where numbers would stabilize with cargo theft. And then it had a huge spike during the Q4. And so then this year I'm like, oh, maybe we'll be, better this year. And then capacity started tightening. And I'm like, nope, we're going to skyrocket because people roll the dice too much. They don't have, especially right now, nobody has core carriers, or not nobody, but most people have no core carriers. And so then that's when so much cargo theft comes in because you get desperado and you'll just load anybody. And bad guys love that.
Yeah, it's I am, and I've been saying this for quite some time on this show, and I'm a fan of what the current administration is doing in regard, like Secretary Duffy and Bars, like they're literally dropping the hammer on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
But what this will create is a vacuum of a mad dash for cash by these fraudulent actors. They know that their window is closing. They're going to do as much as possible in as short as a time as possible. Because it's like, if they got 12 months or 15 months, like they are going to do everything in their power to take and steal as much as they can because the window is closing, right?
Yeah.
And I think, like, I hope they set the like the fines and the prison, like I hope it is such a high amount in such a long amount of time that it will stop people from like wanting to continue. And again, I know there's always going to be criminals. I'm not naive,
right?
But I think if you, like the state of Florida had something like some $50,000 fine and stuff like that for employing, I think like for having illegal drivers on their pay. Like if they find out that you are illegally operating, it's like a $50,000 fine and stuff like that comes down the pipe. That's the style of repercussions I think we need to get to, because if you have no fear of repercussions, you are going to do anything and everything, right? But it will deter some people because they're like, damn, 15 years in prison and $100,000 fine. Ooh, maybe I go and find another way to steal. That's a little too risque.
Right. Well, and I think that brings up a good point. Like, let's say, the auto industry, as far as auto hauling industry. So they had not gotten hit so hard with cargo theft because you steal a car, that's grand theft auto. And so that type of fine, if you get caught, or that type of punishment, if you get caught, is a lot greater than stealing a load of, even like computer servers are worth way more money. But because that's considered property theft and it's nonviolent, I mean, they're in and out. Like I work directly with like the California Highway Patrol. I talk to them all the time. And this was a question I talked to FBI about too, because I'm like, when are we getting to the point where we actually have punishments and then they stay locked up? Because for instance, there was this guy who got CHP busted them with a warehouse, and I'm sure everybody has heard me talk about the story, but $13 million worth of freight. They got sentenced 8 years. They served 1, got out on good behavior because it's California. It was a nonviolent crime, and flopped right back out there, and they just did it again. And then when they caught him again, the guy was literally laughing at their face. And it's like I'm sure he made a lot more than $13 million, but me making whatever millions of dollars versus 1 year of punishment, I'm just going to keep copying. Like, I'll copy and paste this, right? Like, why wouldn't I? And I get it. And so some people, when they're like, if only these bad guys would apply this towards, being good and they can make a lot of money in the industry. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, they do not have to do very much and they make a lot more money than we do.
Yeah, no, I agree. But like, I also just have a conscience, I guess.
Oh yeah.
And ethics, I guess. Maybe it was just the way I was raised, but 1 year in prison is not worth $15 million to me.
Yeah, I agree.
Like,
I definitely different cultures are different. Like, it's funny, like I won't name, I guess, countries, but there's certain countries out there that have like call centers where literally their whole day long, they log in to scam people and then they leave. And that's just that's their job. It's their culture. It's nothing weird about it. And so we're dealing with so many different foreign entities that it is acceptable to them. So it's not like, I think the American culture is definitely like you work hard, you make money, and that's like the respectable thing to do. Well, for a lot of other countries, it's like, hey, what can you do with the least amount of work to make the most money, even if you are ripping someone off?
I look at it like this, like it is terrorism in my eyes. It's a threat to national security. I think that's where the punishment should be at that level, right? Like if you are somehow working on foreign soil and operating here illegally, I'm not going to say legally. Like if if you're doing everything above the board and you filed everything properly, if you're working wherever, that's a different person. And I think that's one thing I would love people to start delineating the difference between legal and illegal operators, and especially ones that are foreign based, because there are plenty of foreign based companies that operate here legally, pay their taxes above the board, they're doing everything right. But then let's talk about the other individuals that are out here who are on foreign soil, that are stealing freight, that are committing fraud, that are putting American lives in danger. That is terrorism to me. And then most likely it's state sponsored wherever they're located. Their government is paying them to infiltrate our supply chain. That's why like the FBI and everybody else, I know the DOT listens to this show and the FMCSA listens to this show. They got to up that stuff to such a high level. Like they should be showing up at there's a 0% chance they don't know the IP addresses and the exact locations of where these guys are. I'm pretty sure our counterterrorism hackers and everything else probably can pull up the webcams on their computer, get all of that stuff. They should start showing up on some of their doors.
I 100 bajillion% agree. I mean, it's something, especially right now with us being at war, like think about this, like, the Department of Defense, unfortunately, they've had a lot of scam and cargo theft involved with them because they don't do monitoring of their carriers. They have like a pretty strict vetting process, but once you're in, like you're good. You can do whatever. You can sell that MC, and that's something, obviously we all know that's been happening. But I mean, think about moving a government official from A to B. All it takes is somebody to go inside that truck, and they don't even have to break a seal. They just can pull the doors off, go in there, plant some bugs here and there, and then move whatever, or install this or whatever. And then think about the data centers and all the, initiatives that we have that we're trying to keep just in the US. Like this is something that China's wanting to get a hold of. So there is stuff getting sold on, like let's say the data center stuff. That stuff's getting stolen left and right, and they're going straight to a port, and it's going straight overseas. I was talking to somebody the other day who was it was Kentucky crime or cargo theft crime stuff, and they were saying that there was a load of I can't remember what type of, I think it was Xboxes or something like that, but it was something like that, and it went from being stolen to less than a month later, they were seeing IP addresses and registrations from like people who log in and register the device from all over the world. Like that's how fast this stuff is moving, and it's not just staying in the US. So it is national security.
No, I know, but I look at it like this. I'm not saying Amazon is complicit in any of this stuff, but how much Amazon resellers, how much of that business is stolen freight, right? Because
they're getting vetted.
All you need is an address and they can just drop ship this shit anywhere, right? You can go to any local, like as advanced as our country, we've made it very easy to do this stuff, right? That comes with having an advanced society and roadway and all of this stuff. But I look at it it's like most of the freight that's stolen is liquidated before the truck even arrives at where they're offloading it at. And like, I know the photo ops that a lot of these local law enforcement agencies put out there are great optics for the local, but that's like probably, I'm not accusing you, that's 5% of what they have ran through that, because the majority of that stuff is liquidated and gone before it even arrives there. And it's not even high value cargo that's at risk anymore here. Like you got to think, if you're moving freight, whether you're a trucking company or a broker, you got to think like a criminal here and say, how easy would it be to sell this? If I pop the seal in downtown Chicago and said $5 per unit, how easy would that be liquidated? And if you can say like very confidently it'd be gone in 5 minutes, that freight is at a higher risk now than it ever has. Because again, They need money. They don't care what it is. They don't care what the goods are. They are looking at this data from a perspective of how easy can we sell this? And if we can't sell it, what can we do to liquidate it in large quantities for pennies on the dollar? Because again, it's free money to them. They don't care.
Mm-hmm. I mean, literally a guy, like this is a couple months ago now, but a load of Gatorade was stolen. It's like, who would have ever thought a $5,000 load of Gatorade would get stolen? But no, it was a quick turn and burn. And I honestly my idea about this, because they are so organized crime, and you got to think about it similar to like the movies that we see and stuff like that, was like the drug rings. Like they got like peons down here, like maybe in training, they're training on how to do things. I think those are the ones that hit the low value freight, because they're sharpening their knives. They're getting better at it, right? They got to get people in and out of these things. And then as they get more advanced, they go after the higher value targets, but they have to train somehow. I mean, it is a job at the end of the day. So it really, as scary as it is, it really is where no matter what the freight is, it could definitely get stolen. And I think that's why knowing how to properly vet, and I've been talking about this for a while now, but it's not just even carrier level vetting. Like we're at the point with the driver level vetting. And, I was talking to Scott Cornell. He was just telling me about like a new trend that he just saw popping up. He saw about 9 cases recently where he's calling it the Trojan driver, almost like a Trojan horse, like back in the whatever war that was, Trojan War. And so he was saying that basically a really amazing carrier, everyone's desperate for drivers. So amazing carrier, they're hiring on these drivers. And then the drivers are, basically in on everything, and they'll wait, they'll work for months, and then they'll wait until they have the right type of load, conveniently park somewhere. Oh, I had an emergency. I had to leave, or whatever the case is. And then their whole truck gets raided. So, and what's sad is the ones who are good drivers, and that does happen to them, and it's not something that's under, it's not really their fault. I think we're at the point where like those guys are going to get hammered just as much as the bad guys are, because we don't know who to trust. It's scary.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. I think that there are a lot of, I'll call them sleeper cells, that are operating at like, they're just data collecting, right? Because it's like, I think there's 2 schools of cargo theft rings that go on out here. I think it's those. I think that they are operating, they have like 47 MCs, right? Yeah. And they're doing their best friends with the brokers. They're getting in, they're trying to find the honeypot freight that you're describing there, right? Like it's only a matter of time before they get access to it. And they know that, right? Because it's like, hey, if we do the right thing here for the next like year, we might get that $250,000 load of perfume or whatever, right? I'm just
they're still making money in the meantime.
Exactly, right? Yeah. So they're able to float that. And it's data collection. One area that I think a lot of people have completely overlooked is the boots on the ground, cash in an envelope. Just let us know. I think people are overlooking that because they're like, there's no way that people are. If people actually understood what 10 grand in cash would do to somebody, especially somebody who maybe behind on their child support, mortgage, credit card debt. Hey, I'm going to pay you $10,000 a month for the next 6 months. I just need 3 trailer numbers with the highest volume, or like the highest value stuff that you guys ship out. Yeah. That's going to buy a lot of people. I think that because like, to me, yes, technology, like cybersecurity, all of that stuff is an angle in, but I think it almost seems too simple in today's day and age, Danielle, that all law enforcement is overlooking that is probably the higher likelihood of how freight is being stolen, especially the higher value stuff that is out there, because there are so many requirements to pick up freight. Like they have everything on that driver. They have driver's licenses. They have pictures of the truck. They have photos of everything. So again, it's so much more of an inside job than I think is even being looked at today, because they're like, oh, it's all cyber enabled now.
I agree on some extent. I do think there are still so many shippers out there that have the very worst quality on taking that information. And even if they are checking anything, they're really not. I mean, they're just like, someone's just checking boxes. Like I was helping, a law enforcement agency try to find a truck. And I mean, the pictures that they were sending me, I'm like, I can't even look this guy up. Like using GenLogs, I can't even try to see what his license plate number is. The images were so bad. I'm like, you can get a simple Ring camera better than you could what these guys are using. So that, and then whenever we were talking with the FBI the other day, something that I guess I've always known, like the cybersecurity, how big that is. Like I get it, but I didn't realize, and I guess I was mainly thinking of like something hacking into your email, like the phishing attempts. But the RMMs, and I'm not like technically savvy at all, so I don't even know all the things, but basically like you're getting like a carrier packet, or maybe, whatever. They're in someone's email. They have to get really only into one. They send out like a packet. And then if you're at the point where you're clicking on it and you're like, hey, nothing's opening, that could be where they're now living in your computer and just monitoring everything you're doing. And then they just sit there. Like they were giving an instance of where somebody just sat there for a year monitoring their whole computer, watching everything. And then before they struck. So I think hygiene on your whole computer, not even just your email. Like I've been preaching on email, but after learning that, I'm like, your whole computer and seeing what's actually, downloaded on there and things like that, is something that it's unfortunate, because at that level, there are people like me who are not technically savvy at all. Where like I would have to hire somebody, and maybe I don't have the resources or money to hire somebody. So it's maybe we need to get better at educating people on how to do that. I'm not the right person for that. I know that, but that part's super scary.
Yeah. The shameless plug, the NMFTA has an annual cybersecurity conference every single year. And it's all of this information that we're talking about right here they talk about it in depth, right? And there's tabletop exercises. There's a ton of stuff. Like I have learned so much more going to that event than maybe any other event that I've been to. Yeah. And it's like, to me, every organization of every size is at risk. Like you think you're small, you're not going to be, no. Everybody, because that's all they need, right? They do. And then they go in there and then they sit there for 6 months or a year. They're just watching. Yep. They're watching. And then they can go in, and depending on, like, not to fearmonger people, but depending on how your customers are paying you, they can get into all of that bank data just like that. Right. So it's like, you got to be very, very careful out there. But Danielle, this flew by. I knew it would. You're coming back on whether you want to or not. So we're going to continue to do this. But how does anybody reach out to you to find out more about what you got going on?
Honestly, LinkedIn's, I live on LinkedIn. Like it's bad how much I live on LinkedIn. But yeah, LinkedIn, Danielle Spinelli. Definitely follow Tell Me Everything podcast. That's you can also just find it kind of in my profile. But doing a lot of things there. I have a new mini series, just to kind of shamelessly plug, that's coming out in May. Me and Scott Cornell kind of put something together where, like, hey, if you're hiring somebody new in the industry and you just need like a crash course 101, like, hey, while you're driving back and forth as a new hire, listen to this podcast and learn about cargo theft, all things cargo theft. It's a kind of a crash course 5-part series we're putting together. So that's coming out in May. I'm pretty excited for that.
Perfect. I love it. Danielle, thank you so much. If you guys can't find Danielle or GenLogs or Fraud Girl out there, hit me up. I will gladly put you guys in contact with them. But that is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. And if you're feeling ambitious, rank it on iTunes and Spotify, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out.